And hello, America. Hello, world. This is Jake Baker. You're listening to the Baker Report. We're glad you've joined us. Looking to 2024. Now, listen, folks, I don't believe you have to be a prophet to see what 2024 is going to be all about. It's about history, headlines, and prophecy, and they tell us, frankly, all we need to know about what is coming. I don't need a gift of knowledge to tell you that 2024 is going to be a rough year. Every place we turn, there are strange headlines. I mean, we're seeing candidates melting down in unprecedented numbers as Trump continues to dominate everything. I mean, he just sucks all of the oxygen out of the room. And the candidates aren't helping themselves. I mean, the DeSantis campaign has been pathetic and inane. He's embarrassed himself with so many of his outings. And listen, I don't think Ron DeSantis is the bad guy. I think at some point in time, he'll probably make a good presidential candidate. But he's not a good presidential candidate right now. He simply does not have the gravitas it takes to be president of the United States. And then there's his chief competitor, Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley is an amazing woman. She sounds so conservative in everything she does, but she stands for so little. She is the absolute perfect rhino. Nikki Haley is pro-child sex change and is supported by a billionaire Democrat megadonor who, by the way, visited Epstein Island. And that's who funds Nikki Haley's campaign. And he says he does it solely for one reason. And that reason? To stop Donald Trump. First, I guess, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Child sex change operations and Nikki Haley. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley said in an interview that she believes that the law, government, should stay out of an irreversible experiment called gender-affirming care for children, and that parents should handle this. Now, in the full interview, Haley added, this is a job for the parents to handle. And then, if the child becomes 18, they want to make more of a permanent change, they can do that. But I think until then, we see our teenage kids. They go through a lot during puberty. They go through a lot of confusion. They go through a lot of anxiety. They go through a lot of pressures. We should support them the whole way, but we don't need to go in and force something in schools. We don't need schools sitting there hiding from the parents what gender pronoun they're using. We don't need to have those conversations in schools. They are conversations that should be at home. So let's do a little dissection on this. First, she says no law should be introduced to protect kids from predatory schools, teachers' unions, and teachers. No law to protect them from viciously aggressive LGBTQ plus terrorists looking to make trans victims out of every child in America. To me, that says just what the old abortionists used to say. Well, I'm personally opposed to abortion, but I don't think we should enact laws prohibiting it. What utter cowardice. She says schools should not be involved in these discussions. Well, maybe they shouldn't be, but they are. And if she is too stupid, naive, or cowardly to face that, then she's not qualified for the job of President of the United States. And if she is what I suspect she is, a closet friend of LGBTQ plus community, then she is unfit for office. Nikki Haley has to take a stand, and she's trying to straddle a fence. And that tells me that her real belief system is on the other side. So how is she still in this campaign? Well, very simple. She is the choice of rhinos and the left, and believe it or not, she is supported in large part by Democrats. These Democrats see her as the only possible candidate to derail Trump. And they recognize her rhino tendencies and believe that they could both use and manipulate her, and that they could stand her brand of politics because she's not a radical. Radical means she doesn't really wrap her arms around the Constitution very tight. So let's talk about where Nikki Haley is getting her support. Billionaire Democrat megadonor who visited Epstein Island, funds Nikki Haley's campaign almost completely. And the purpose of it is to stop Donald Trump. This is billionaire Reid Hoffman, a mega donor to Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. He's showing his support behind former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley and her bid for the presidency to strategically derail former President Donald Trump from securing the Republican nomination. Hoffman, by the way, worth about $2.1 billion, is the co-founder of LinkedIn and has admittedly visited convicted child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's private rape island. The Stand for America PAC, which backs Haley in this GOP primary, was approached by Hoffman in December about contributing $250,000, a donation basically to Haley's campaign. The pro-Haley super PAC, SFA Fund, Inc., was asked specifically by Mr. Hoffman's political team if he would take money from Mr. Hoffman, given that he is a Democrat who actively supports Joe Biden. The super PAC added, yes, we would take the money. Hoffman published an open letter on his LinkedIn platform on Tuesday admitting his sole purpose for making the large donation to Nikki Haley's campaign in the GOP primary was to stop Trump. So, why Nikki Haley? Plainly because Governor Haley is also the only Republican nominee other than Trump with any chance of winning the GOP nomination, according to Hoffman. Nikki Haley has disappointed me with her inconsistency in denouncing Trump, especially after the violence of January 6th, and I disagree with a wide swath of her policy views. Yet American politics are in crisis. While we are fighting to defend the idea of America from the threat of Trumpism, we need to engage with people with whom we disagree about many areas of policy and culture. Nikki Haley would not be good for America like Joe Biden would be, but America would survive her administration. Essentially what he's saying is this: Nikki's enough of a rhino that, well, we could live with what she does. And if we can use her to stop Trump, why, that's even better, because they fear, quote, Trumpism, end quote. So what is Trumpism? Well, Trumpism is America first. Trumpism is about the Constitution. Trumpism is about American values. Listen, I'm not trying to say that he's a born-again Christian, but I am trying to say that he at least believes there are godly values that should be embraced. So why are they supporting Nikki Haley from the Democrat point of view? Because apparently they believe she stands for the opposite of what Trump does. Now, in addition to this, they believe that Trumpism is anti-democratic, that it would be the death of democracy. Well, guess what? They're right. Democracy is not something to be embraced, something that should be feared and avoided at all costs. Our founding fathers told us that. Democracy is when two wolves and a sheep sit down and vote about what's going to be on the menu for lunch. Works well for wolves, not so much for sheep. Democracy is the rule of the people. If you've got a little alcohol and a megaphone, the crowd is yours. What is communism? The rule of the proletariat. What is the proletariat? The proletariat is the people. It is about collectivism. You see, democracy is about collectivism, and the constitutional republic is about individualism. The individual versus the collective. Each man is endowed by his creator with certain unalienable rights. They believe the crowd is endowed by their creator, and they are the creator. They are the God state. They determine who gets what. They don't want that challenge. That's democracy. He went on to say, if America is to avoid another Trump presidency, it will be because Trump loses an election next year. If he is to lose, it will either be to Nikki Haley in the primary or Joe Biden in the general. I've invested in the Stand for America PAC supporting Nikki Haley because I agree with Jamie Dimon, president of Chase Bank, recent comments that Democrats should support Haley in the primary and Biden in the general election. Hoffman, along with billionaire George Soros, is one of the Democrat Party's biggest billionaire donors. He and Soros are reportedly behind a clandestine group that bills itself as Good Information Foundation. As Breitbart News reports, Hoffman has since fashioned himself as a Democrat megadonor, though his activities are largely hidden from the public view. He is one of the key framers of the modern political infrastructure that is contouring the current American landscape by allowing the super wealthy, who control the super PACs, to use nonprofits and lenient disclosure laws to make mega political contributions, basically in relative obscurity. That is, tactically, he embraces both the disingenuous and censorious, as well as the Chinese Communist Party. But Hoffman's shady political activity doesn't end there. He also funded a series of pro-Doug Jones ads in Alabama that were modeled on the much-decried Russian propaganda peddled on Facebook and Twitter in 2016. The project's operatives posed as conservative Alabamians on Facebook and tried to use the platform to divide Republicans, pushing them toward a write-in candidate and away from Judge Roy Moore, the GOP's nominee for Senate. They also ran a scheme, according to the New York Times, to link the Moore campaign to thousands of Russian accounts that suddenly began following the Republican candidate on Twitter, a development that drew national media. Hoffman is also an occasional collaborator with the Communist Chinese on a direct level. As Peter Schweitzer reported in his #1 best-selling book, Red-Handed, LinkedIn is the most China-friendly American-owned social networking site, and Hoffman is known as the most connected man in Silicon Valley. This is who supports Nikki Haley. She won't stand against child mutilation. She opposes laws that would prohibit medical professionals of any kind from doing that. She garners her support from a billionaire Democrat who is pro-abortion, pro-homosexual, pro-child mutilation, pro-big anarchy, pro-communist China, and hates America. Now, in the meanwhile, while all of this is happening, we see new charges being brought out against Hunter Biden. Now, do they embarrass Joe Biden? Not really, because he knows he can always pardon his son. Hunter Biden's missing charges, however, in the whole 9 charges that were leveled against him, 4 of them felony counts, a lot of charges are missing. Some of the charges that are missing would lead back to his father, so those aren't included. His lawyer, Abby Lowell, says if Hunter's last name wasn't Biden, these charges would not have been brought against him. Well, he's right. They wouldn't have been. These are essentially nothing charges, and avoid the charges that should have been brought, charges like treason, selling the office of both the vice president and the president of the United States, charges under the FARA Act, Foreign Agent Registration Act. Why were there no FARA charges? Simple. Because the FARA charges investigation would have led to an investigation that followed the money. And that money, that investigation, would have led investigators straight to the big guy, Joseph R. Biden. They would have uncovered a pay-to-play scheme involving tens of millions of dollars and continued acts of treason. We've got Hunter Biden and Joe Biden still skating essentially free. Democrats funding Nikki Haley to put DeSantis out of the race and to put Trump out of the race. By the way, it's working on DeSantis, not working on Trump. Nikki Haley hasn't got a prayer. She isn't going anywhere. So I love to see the Democrats throwing money away. But it tells us a lot about the character of Nikki Haley. We've got to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House. He has betrayed us all in a major way. He is not just another rhino, though, because in his case, he is the worst kind of rhino. He is one that hides behind his, quote, faith, end quote, while betraying that faith in every possible way, at every possible turn. All that, and my predictions for 2024 with Trump, the elections, and finally, a dire warning for 2024 that could bring about the end of America. Sadly, all that and much more after this short time out. Stay with us.
You finally took the plunge and started that video blog, or podcast. And it looks great. So you go down the checklist. 1. You talk about lots of important stuff. 2. The set looks incredible. 3. You are already lining up amazing guests. 4. Wait, what's 4 again? Oh right, you need viewers. You know, people to actually watch the videos you're uploading. Those people that make it possible to monetize your podcast or video, or bring in customers. So, how do you get viewers? Well, you can hire some big ad agency, but to them, you are still just a small client. You can call every member of your family, and their families' families, or you can contact Elite Power Pros. We'll tailor a custom plan that meets your needs, finds your audience, and keeps your budget in mind during the whole process. Visit us today at elitepowerpros.com. That's elitepowerpros.com.
I used to feel better than this.
I don't feel bad, I just don't feel good.
I just don't feel right.
These are comments we hear every day. Many of us just don't feel good anymore, and the average person may have as many as 24 parasites. Our immune systems and DNA are under attack by man-made diseases, chemicals, toxins, big pharma drugs, and pesticides in our food, water, and air. It's a wonder we function at all. At Sanus One, we created our Wellness and Bio-Cleanse formulas with no drugs or toxins, and our nano and bio-sized wellness formula is designed to attack everything including plagues from China. They targets fungus and parasites, and they're designed to help your body do what no medicine can, allow your body to begin healing itself. There are no expensive monthly treatments, just 30 days and you could be back on the road to recovery and wellness. Visit our site at sanus1.com. Attack disease, live in wholeness and true health. sanus1.com.
And we are back for page 2 of the Baker Report. Let's talk about January 6th. What was January 6th really all about? Was it about treason, betrayal? What was it about? Well, it was about both those things. It was about treason and it was about betrayal, but it was about rigged elections and the overthrow both of the Constitution and the government of the United States. Stalin said it's not the people who vote that counts, it's the people that count the votes that matters. Listen, folks, here's a simple observation. The globalists and powers that be control everything around us. This is red pill, blue pill world that we live in. They control 83% of all the profits in the world. They own the media, medicine, banking, big pharma, wars, plagues, and they buy and sell everything on the face of the earth. Revelation 18, when I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye not receive of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she has rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she hath said in her heart, I sit as a queen, I am no widow, and I shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine. And she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord who judges her. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her and lament for her, and they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold, and of silver, and of precious stones, and of pearls, and of fine linen, and purple, and silk, and scarlet, and all tine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and of iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and the souls of men. Ask yourself a simple question. If they control everything, and everyone, and if our vote really mattered, do you think they would let us do it? They have a plan, folks, to steal another election. The J6ers knew the left had rigged the last election and committed treason. They overthrew the government of the United States. So, one of Mike Johnson's pledges was to release the J6 footage. But they got to him. The rhinos, the security agencies, the FBI, DOJ, and the powers that be probably threatened him and gave him the carrot and the stick. A way to allow him to keep his promise, but making that promise worthless. Mike Johnson releases footage of the J6 events, but the faces of the people are blurred. Supposedly, he said, to protect the innocent from the DOJ, the FBI, law enforcement, etc. But folks, they've had this footage since January of 2020. They've used geofencing to know every participant in the January 6th event, which was in reality nothing more than a revolt against the tyranny and treason that was just shoved in their face. But the FBI and the DOJ know every person who was in D.C. on that day, and anywhere near the Capitol on that day. In fact, way back in March of this year, the DOJ and the FBI told courts to expect an onslaught of arrests, perhaps in the thousands, of people who were anywhere near the Capitol on January 6th. Many of them are going to be arrested for thought crimes. If they didn't already know who they were, folks, they couldn't threaten to arrest them. They know everyone who was in the Capitol on that day. So, who is Mike Johnson really protecting? He's protecting the more than 200 plus federal employees, operatives, stooges, and flunkies, the gunsels, if you will, who were part of the investigation of the January 6th protest. We have images of people being arrested in front of the cameras and then quietly released to fist bumps and pats on the back. Mike Johnson is just a religious version of McCarthy or Paul Ryan, which in my book, by the way, is even more damnable than being just a tool. He is a tool pretending to be on the side of the Constitution and the Republic. He is not. He is the enemy within the gates. A nation, it has been said, can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banners openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely. His sly whispers rustling through all the alleys, heard in the very halls of government itself. Folks, I don't need to be a prophet to tell you about what will happen in and to America. History tells us all we need to know about what's coming. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So, where are we? History tells us a few simple truths. Empires begin with a bang. Events lead to expansion, conquest, great power, and wealth, which leads to opulence, which teaches strong men to become weak men. Weak men first give in to tolerance of decadence and sin and convince themselves that it is enlightenment. From these weak men, as they embrace decadence and sin, a decadence society develops. And decadence leads to hard times and collapse. It is in the history of empire, from the Egyptian Empire to the Greek Empire, to the Roman Empire, to the Byzantine Empire, to the Ottoman Empire, and to the empires of Spain, England, and unfortunately, I fear now, soon, America. Nations become weak when they become tolerant of decadence and sin. They fall when they embrace it. We have embraced wickedness of every kind. Sodom and Gomorrah fell because of the very same sexual perversion we are openly embracing in this country. Spain fell when she threw out the Jews in 1492. England fell when she cursed Israel and the Hebrew people at the time of World War II. We are now in the practice of turning our back on Israel and the Hebrew people under the third term of Barack Hussein Obama, using Joe Biden as the sock puppet in chief. So, what will be the fate of America? Well, I have a dire warning that I'm going to share with you for 2024. It is a very specific warning, and I believe that will forever change the course of America and history. We'll be talking about that dire warning and the fate of America for 2024 right after this short time out, so stay tuned. We'll be right back.
So, you need a simple video to tell people about your business, educational institution, or nonprofit you run. But, you talked to one of those production houses, and they said it was going to cost way more than you ever imagined. Well, like many of you, we're independent business people and we understand what it takes to run a business or raise funds for a charitable organization, and we're here to help. Whether it's an effective email campaign, a video, short or long, or just a commercial for radio or television, we can help. Need a ghostwriter or help with a webinar? Yep, we can help with that too. Need copy for a website? Article for publication or adfomercial? We've got you covered. If you need it, we can help, and we'll keep your budget in mind as well. So visit our website at elitepowerpros.com. That's elitepowerpros.com, and relax, help is on the way.
It's the Christmas season again. You've looked for that perfect gift for a loved one or someone who has everything. This year, instead of that usual tie, sweater, or bottle of cologne, think outside the box and get something really special, the gift of health and wellness. Ours is a world of antibiotic-resistant diseases and toxins. Medical kits with more antibiotics or more drugs from Big Pharma or China simply aren't the solution. At Sanus One, we've developed 4 unique formulas that attack even man-made plagues, can help flush toxins and heavy metals from your system, which allows your body to heal itself. And you can restore your ho-ho-ho at no additional charge. Reserve your wellness gift card today for someone you want to keep around for a while. And you might want to pick up one for yourself. Live in wholeness and true health. Visit our site at sanus1.com. That's sanus1.com. Give the gift of wellness from sanus1.com.
And we are back with page 3 of the Baker Report. The church today is, to a large extent, inane, cowardly, and sadly irrelevant because they've made themselves irrelevant. Liberal denominations have joined the army of Satan. They're doing his bidding. They've embraced every sin under the sun. Dead orthodoxy is doing Satan's bidding by their complete irrelevance. They are the equivalent of the Sadducees in Messiah's time. The charismatic church is all out seeking a word. I literally have friends that travel across the country hither and yon listening for a word. But Yahweh has already given us a word, and here it is. Listen, I don't need a word of knowledge to tell you about 2024. Sin has consequences. Abortion brings death and cursing. In this coming election season in 2024, abortion will be on the ballots of many states, and states will choose abortion, which will bring with it a curse, harder and faster, because it is no longer the federal government forcing it upon us. It is state after state that will choose it. No longer an impersonal federal government forcing it on us, but us in the states choosing to enshrine the murder of our children. The church has lost its way. They have become a soft Alan Alda type church. The feminine church lost its masculinity. Women are 60% more likely to attend church than men. Church is pastel and soft. We need a church that reverts back to dark colors, to wood and brass and smoke and fire, and a war room, equipping soldiers of the cross. Not psychobabble, feel-good preachers, promising blessings at every turn, making God a genie in a bottle, and we say the magic mantra we call a prayer, and he pops out, granting us wishes. Instead, Scripture says, put on the full armor of God. Dip your sword into the blood of Calvary and go forth conquering. So what will 2024 look like? Sadly, I say there's about an 80% chance that America will burn. It will burn if Trump is jailed, obviously. His followers are not going to sit by and watch their hero, their leader, their president, jailed. It will burn if Trump wins. The left is not going to stand for an honest election. The left is not going to put up with a Trump victory. And it will burn if the election is clearly rigged, because I think people are at a breaking point. They will burn if the election is clearly rigged, and it will be clearly rigged. And of course, if Trump is elected and keeps his promise to begin mass deportations immediately, America will burn. Now, I say it's going to happen in 2024. Part of this will happen in 2024, or it could be pushed over to the early months of 2025. But I do know this: if Trump is jailed, there will be violence, because America will have given up any semblance of law and order. And of course, vigilante justice will be in the forefront of the news media's articles, night after night, day after day, headline after headline. If Trump is elected, the left will absolutely lose their minds and will loose violence on the land. If the election is rigged, as I know it will be, many on the right will say enough is enough. Do I need a word of knowledge for that? Hardly. History, prophecy, and headlines tells me all I need to know. Listen, I love the gifts of the Spirit, but I also see their abuse. The counterfeit gifts, counterfeit lives, prophets for profit. Will the election of Donald J. Trump save America? No. It could, however, forestall the inevitable and give us more time to prepare for that which must surely come upon us. But it will not be without pain, folks. There is a possibility of martial law. I mean, if violence gets out of hand, what is the government going to do? And there is, at least in my opinion, a 50-50 chance of open revolution. The Bible talks about it. Babylon has 30 qualifications for it to be end-time Babylon. Of those 30 qualifications, I have run almost every nation and entity you can think of through it. Some of those qualifications include a recognizable mother. She has to have a land that has been overrun by invaders posing as immigrants. Must have control of the finances of the whole earth. That nation has to be the financial powerhouse of humanity. It must have the most powerful military on earth, because it has to be the hammer of the whole earth. It must be a melting pot of people. It must have been a godly nation at one time, but has fallen because the dwelling places of demons is what it has become. That nation will have to have been attacked by an assembly of nations when it falls. And none of those nations in the past fit that bill. She has to be a great producer of food. She must be the hammer of the whole earth. She must be known for her financial analysts and power to create wealth. And by the way, that financial power includes buying and selling and trading across the entire globe. That is our SWIFT system, which is what China and Russia are rebelling against right now. She has to have embraced homosexuality and sexual perversion. She has to be a land that has been robbed by unjust weights and measures and by crooked financiers and financial wizardry. Where else but the United States do you see that kind of scenario unfolding? She has to have been the golden cup in the Lord's hands, or a nation built for good that is now only a vessel of wrath. It has to be a nation that sits on many waters, either literally or figuratively. Many waters means abundant oceans, lakes, and rivers, or many waters can mean a mingled people or a melting pot. End-time Babylon is a destroying mountain, which means we overthrow the other nations like we just did in Brazil. What Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama did in the Middle East, destroying Iraq, Libya, Sudan, Tunisia, and many other countries. Egypt. And earlier in history, countless nations, just to name a few. No other entity meets these qualifications besides America. The destruction of Babylon will be burned with fire, polluted beyond any ability to be restored. Perhaps a Yellowstone eruption, a nuclear attack, a chemical or biological attack, or perhaps all of the above. And it all starts with an eternal revolution. Then men, immigrants, rise up and raise a shout against that nation. Our military fails. Our weapons are useless. Our mighty men become weak. And we, end-time Babylon, are utterly destroyed. So what does God say to his people living in these end times? He says, flee and escape the land of Babylon. He also tells us when not to flee and to escape. Do you remember back in World War II, just before Hitler took power, German prophets went through the land of Germany and told the Jewish people, leave, get out, go. God says, don't wait until the last minute. Yahweh says, don't pray that your flight not be in the winter or on the Sabbath day, and woe to them that give suck. This is the time, folks, for change. Not changing the nation. I believe we're past that point. But a time for a new church to arise, a new covenant Israel, to take a fresh take on faith. There is going to be no great end-time revival of the unsaved. It is a revival of the remnant. Flee and escape the land of Babylon. Now we have to decide if we're going to flee and escape. Where do we flee and escape to? How do we flee and escape? When do we flee and escape? The Lord is going to provide all of those answers in the future, and I believe the not too distant future. This is the time of the refreshing of the remnant. A time when the elect, Yahweh's people. This is the time when the house of Ephraim is going to be called to be mighty warriors, to put on the whole armor of God, and to change the course of history, and to fulfill the destiny that Yahweh laid out for them before the worlds were framed, because he knew us before he formed us in the womb. For the Baker Report, I'm Jake Baker. Until next time, good day, take care, Lord bless.